Recording in progress.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So, yesterday we learned about some state management related concept. So, we discussed about uh, state related hooks, some various state management related techniques. And yesterday we learned about how to deal with cookies. So, using React cookie and how to deal with React cookie, we learned. And I also showed you a point about session storage and local storage of your JavaScript. That is actually session storage. Another one is local storage. So what is difference between session and storage? Session and local storage, I give an overview. Now, some more hooks are there related to performance and functionality. Uh, Related to data storage only, but to understand them, we need some backend communication, means server side rendering. I will give some syntax and overview. We will implement with backend server side communication. We will implement them because for that we need some actions to perform and some large data to access from server side. Actually, the other hooks we learned, one hook already we used it. So use ref is just like a use state, but
Progress.
so actually thread we use it as actually thread dot current. Thread uses a current and a clear timeout thread dot current. This already in a few examples we implemented, so no need to explain again. So use ref. So it is for creating a reference memory and using the reference memory internally. So here Examples I'm not giving because already we have them. So where we used, suppose we used event fixed or some interval demo. While we designed this here, interval demo we created, what we done here, we used this use ref for storing the count. We used use ref for suspending the thread. That means assign a task into it, count dot current. And here we are using the suspend thread dot current. We are using some interval so that we can clear that interval and handle. Already we implemented this in example. I already showed you them. That is the concept of use ref. So now the point is this reference memory accessible? Is the reference memory accessible to other components? Not accessible. It is only for the component. Reference memory is only for the component. Across multiple requests in a component, you can access it. Right. So that is a use reference. Next, important, we have another hook, that is use memo. Use memo, use callback, we will just make a note about it. Later we will implement them because for that we need some backend data. So actually it is same like use effect. What is use effect? At mounting phase, it will perform certain functionality. And use memo actually, and what is problem with use effect is it will render only once. That means at the time of mounting a component, it will render. Now, whatever data it has rendered, it is deleted automatically after using it. That means use effect will load the data into memory. After you use it, it is destroyed. If I want it again it will get from the server and again it will load into memory. So what is this known as? Every time accessing from server and loading into your component is called as when a data is required every time, frequently, the data is coming from server every time is known as that mechanism is known as round trip. Round trip. You learned about round trip in general web designing. Round trip means what? Whenever client requests any information, that information loads from the server. But in a fraction of time, he is requesting again and again. Then what it will do? It will get every time from the server. But we have to save round trips. How you save the round trips? If any data is frequently requested, we can cache the data. You know what is caching? Caching means what? Saving your frequently requested data in the temporary memory so that every time it will not request from the server, it will get it from the cache. It improves the performance. So that is what generally you learned. If anybody asked you, in HTML, we have a head section and we have a body section. So what is the purpose of head and body section? If you say that in head section, I will put a title, link, like options, you can put them in body also. Interviewer will ask like, I can put title, link, script. Everything in body section also they will work. Then why to keep in head section? So we keep contents in head section to save round trips. That is the technical reason. So if you simply like school kids, you say what is in head section, title, link, script we put in head section. Then they will ask why. I can put in body also. Why to put in head section? I can put in body section also, it will work. So why to put in head section? Contents in head section are going to save round trips. That means if any content is frequently requested again and again, so that content will not be fetched from the server, it will be fetched from the buffer, from the memory. Frequently requested content in a page or in a component, we can cache that and keep it in the memory for a certain duration of time. What is advantage of that? Every time the data will not come from the server, it will come from the cache. This mechanism getting every time from server is called round trip, and we save round trips by using use memo. Use memo is to save the round trip. If certain data is needed every time, very frequently, then we can cache the data and keep it. So that next time it will not get from the server, it will get from the cache. That is the purpose of use memo. Actually, this concept is same everywhere. Everywhere. Remember, whenever you are network-based application, server called round trip. Even in your databases also. Suppose you are learning Oracle, MySQL, SQL Server, some databases. If anybody asks you, like how a developer can cache the frequently connected databases in his PC so that he don't need to open the connections every time. How a software developer in a company keeps all the opened connections ready for him instead of opening the connections manually every time. If a developer is regularly working with on database, he will keep the connection handles open in his PC so that he don't need to open the connection every time. They are kept open. We can directly connect and use. What is this mechanism called as? Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL have this mechanism. We call this mechanism as connection pooling. Connection pooling. Pool, connection pooling. Oracle will teach you connection pooling. SQL Server will teach you connection pooling. Every database have connection pooling. Especially when you are using a connection handle regularly, you need to pull the connections. So that is very common practice in real-time development. In real-time development, without connection pooling, we don't use connection. That's mandatory. We have to use that. You see, in your computer here, in your computer, you will find ODBC. ODBC is Open Database Connectivity. This is ODBC. When you go to ODBC, you will see connection pooling will be there. And when you go to connection pooling, so currently in my computer, there is SQL Server connection. So like this Oracle, other connections can be there. And what is the purpose of connection pooling is, connection pooling allows an application to reuse an open connection handle which saves round trips. Which saves round trips. That is the purpose. And any network-based application, it will have a concept of round trip. Round trip. That's a very common thing actually. So why you keep a title in head section? To save round trip. Why you keep script in head section? To save round trip. We can keep in body also. But when you keep in body, what will happen? It will render only once. After that, it is removed. If you keep in head section, it will render once and keep in the memory so that we can access it regularly. That is the reason titles, link, meta, and script-like options or script style-like options are very frequently kept in which section? Head. Of course, we can keep in body section also, but they are kept in head section for that reason. So usually this is memo concept is same. Actually memo, use memo. It is used to save round trip for values, round trip for values that are used frequently in a component. It is used to save round trip for values that are used frequently in a component. Round trip is a mechanism where the content, you can say where the resource is fetched from server every time when requested by client. So you can cache the data. You can cache the values. You can cache the values in memory and save round trips. You can cache the values in memory and save round trips. Use memo can store the values returned by a function. Can store the values returned by a function and improve the performance. So that is the concept of use memo. This requires server-side rendering. That means we need some server database connection and all. Then it is very good to understand. I will just give a syntax. Later we will implement that. This needs good data coming from backend. Then we can test the performances. So actually how we use is just like use effect. So use memo. Use memo uses a function and dependency. And dependency. For use callback, we have use memo, use callback. Both are similar, same concept, but difference is what use memo will do is it will save the data only. Whatever values are coming, it will save. But use callback can save a function in memory. That means a complete functionality can be stored in the memory so that that functionality is frequently used. What is use memo? Only the data returned by function, not the function. That means use memo will not store the function in memory. It will store only the data returned by a function. Whereas use callback will store the functionality in the memory. That means if any certain functionality is frequently requested, then we can use callback. If any data is frequently requested, then we can use memo. So that means it is similar to use memo, but it can cache the function into memory. If a function is frequently requested across multiple requests, then cache you can cache the function and save round trips. That is use call. So both are similar. So, but only the point is one for value, another for function. Both need some server side rendering process. Then we can test the better performance for them. So actually, what it is going to do is syntactically same. Use callback. So this callback usually it uses a function inside. It uses a function inside. This function will be cached. Use memo will get the value. Right. Just roughly, I will show a concept, but later we will implement that. Actually, suppose we are having some concept. Yeah. So anyway, so just let's take, means first I will give here. Yeah. I am writing a function. Get data is the function. What this get data function will do is some data it will collect. It will perform some operation on the data. That means it will get from backend. So APIs and all. After getting the data, it will return the data. It will return the data. That means usually what we do, we write fetch data from server, store in that, and we use it. So what this is doing is, this is fetching the data and it is returning the data. That means it is a function which returns a value. It returns a value. And the value returned by this function we need regularly. So in a component, we need to use it regularly. Then generally what we do, we use memo. We use memo. Use memo uses a callback function. That means it uses a callback function. In this callback function, what it will do is it will use the dependencies also. In the callback function, what it will do is whatever data is coming from a function, it will return that and it will give it to memory. So whatever data, that is what get data is the function. What get data function is doing? This get data function is what returning. This get data function is returning some data. That return data it will collect into the memory and store in a memory reference. That means, so user data, it will store in that reference. That means what use memo will do? It will collect the data coming from here and it will keep in the cache. That means this is going to be in the cache. Suppose if I don't do like this, I just use LET, some sample data, and directly I'm using get data. I'm using get data here. That means whatever data is coming from server, we are storing in sample data. What is problem in this? After I fetched the data from here, whatever data comes, I will store the data. Once I finished using the data, this is deleted. The data is deleted. Again, I want the data. Again, it will fetch the data from the server. But what use memo is going to do? It will get the data. Whatever data comes, it will cache the data. That means it will store the data in temporary memory. And it will provide it to your user data. You requested again. When you requested again, this user data becomes empty. But the data is cached in memory now. From memory, it will come again. That means it is cached in the memory. From the memory, it is going to come again. Who cached the data in memory? Use memo. This will cache the data and put it in the memory. That means in a better way here, means I will just give a point here. So what happens? Use memo is going to create a memory, and that memory we call it as what? Cache. What will happen? The result of this will be stored in that cache. From the cache, it is given to this reference. What is advantage of this? This will reset again, but data is still in the cache. So it will come from the cache again. Whenever it needs the data, it will bring it from the cache. Otherwise, every time it has to bring it from the server. Bring it from the server. That is the advantage of this. Later we will implement with some server side data coming, we will do that with APIs and all. So this is the concept of what? This is the concept of use memo. What is use callback? Simple actually. That means I will keep this point. In the use memo, I will keep this. But that is not complete functional example, just process, which we will later do that. And what is callback? Callback is nothing but, so instead of use memo, you can do one more. What you can do? You can say use what? Callback. You can use callback. In use callback, this time what we do is this will be using a function. And the function is nothing but what we will do is directly we will keep this functionality inside it. We'll keep the functionality inside. And this is returning the data, accessing the data and all. Previously, what we are doing, we are having a function, whatever data returned by function, we are storing it in one place and it is giving to the cache. But now what it is doing, directly it is having a function which is returning data to the cache. If you want to handle only data, then use memo. If you want to handle the functionality along with the data, then you have to use memo. Use memo. That means depending on situation, I want to deal with only data, I want to deal with only this, so that we can use this use callback. Later detail you will understand, because when I show you in implementation in one example, then you will clearly see that we will monitor also, means how performance is affecting. We will monitor and see what is caching, what is without caching, how much time it may take. We can track the timing also. That means how much time it is taking when you re-request the content. And I don't need to explain what is this. What is this? Dependency. Dependency means what? When it has to execute the function again. So you can pass a dependency so that it will execute the function again. Whenever some value changes, it should execute. That means it cached. when the cache need to be updated again? Cache cannot be permanent. Cache must be updated again. That means I will give a best example. You are watching a live cricket match. When you are watching a live cricket match, the live score will come through Ajax. They will get the live score and show you. That means now the current score, suppose what happens in live cricket match is, suppose we are having, so over one, first over. So we have ball one. And we have the concept of what runs. That means runs is equal to 3. Now what happens is this area will refresh every time. This area will refresh every time. Every few seconds it will refresh. It will refresh every few seconds. Then every few seconds what it will do? It will get the updated information from where? Server. From the server it will get that information. From the server it is going to get that information. But what happens is after ball 1, for ball 2 some delay is happening. That means there in live, so for ball 2 some delay is happening. But this is refreshing. This is reloading every few seconds. Reloading every few seconds. And here the new ball is not bowled. Then what happens? So if new ball is not bowled and new data is not updated, then again for few seconds it will go to server and get the same information. It will go to server and get the same information. If it is not updated on server, why you are going to server and fetching it again? Then what we can do? This information we can keep in which location? We can keep in cache. From cache we will get it. And from here it will come to cache. What will happen is whenever a new ball is bowled here, that means it will update on server. Then it will update into the cache. From the cache it will come. You refresh again, then it will not go to server. It will come from what? Cache. That means when this will be updated, cache will be updated again. When cache will be updated again, whenever a new ball is bowled, that means that is dependency. That is dependency. When to update the cache again? That we have to decide by using dependency. This all we can implement only when we have some communication with server and all, right? That's the reason understanding the syntax is enough to handle. Later we will use it. Detailedly we will understand how to use the memo and the callback. That is the concept. So what is the purpose of use memo and use callback? The purpose of use memo, use callback is to save the round trip. What is difference between memo and callback? Memo will cache only data and callback will cache the function. Remember, out of 100 React interviews you attend, 99 interviews have this question. Right, about callback, about memo. So, and about different types of state managements. This is very popular question asked in interviews, even for experienced people also. That means why we should use callback, why we should use memo. What is difference between memo and callback? So you search anywhere React interview questions and answers, you will find this 100%. Everywhere you will find this. And this is very important to handle the performance also. It is very important. In interviews, why they ask? Because this is the primary thing that affects the performance. That's the reason while working with server side rendering and all, we need this option, right? This is use callback, use memo like options. Next, one more hook we regularly learned already. What is it? Use effect. Already we know about it. No need to explain, but we will use more with this use effect later. What use effect is going to do? Actually, it defines the functionality. So it defines the functionality to perform. Functionality to perform. At the time of mount and unmount. It defines the functionality to perform at the time of mount and unmount. The functionality to perform at the time of mount and unmount. Actually, what is the mount and unmount phase? When these actually work, all these days you have seen mount only, you haven't seen unmount. What is the concept of mount and unmount? What is the point about mount and unmount is actual to understand this. So we need one concept to understand actually. Suppose, so we have a client. So we have a client. Later we will learn about complete life cycle, means how the architecture of React works, we will understand. We have a separate concept for that. So generally from client, whenever any component is requested, suppose we have our React application. So React app. And you know, React app will not have pages. React app is single page application. Single page application, it starts with only which page? Index.html. That means only one page is present here. It is a single page application. Whenever client makes a request, what happens? This index page will come there. That means whenever client makes a request, then that index page will render into him. Index page will render. Now in your application, you have a login component. We have a register component. We have a home component like that. We have some components. Now what happens? Client will request some home component. When client requests an home component, what will happen on server? Later detailed flow I will explain, because we have a separate concept called life cycle. We will understand that. As of now, when you request a home component, what will happen on server? What is going to happen on server is first. So what happens is component is created. First step, component is created. Whatever the component you requested, that requested component is created. After creating the component, so memory allocated. The memory is allocated for the component. After memory is allocated, now it will mount into memory. These are the stages, basic. That means what phases? So whenever you request a component, first, so component is created, and the component memory is allocated for the component. Now the component will mount into memory. That means it will load into the memory. Component mounts into the memory. That means it loads into the memory. So you requested a component, the component is created, memory is allocated, and it is mounted. Then now the question is, when this memory is destroyed, when you close the application or when you move to another component. When you move to another component, this is home memory. And from home, you are moving to another component. What is it? Login. Then what happens is, when you request a login, then this component will unmount. That means this component will have a phase called unmount. Remember, unmount will not happen until or unless you request another component. When you request another component, then the current component will unmount. After unmounting the current component, next step, it will create the second component, allocate memory for second component, and mounts the second component. That means when unmount will happen, when you are changing from one component to another. When you are moving from one component to another, it will delete the memory allocated for that component and it will go to next. That is the reason when unmount happens, the memory allocated is deleted. So that is the reason we need state management techniques to remember information from one component to another. So usually this is a basic cycle. So you requested, first component is created. Internally, so much will happen. I will explain in next levels. So component created, component memory allocated, component is mounted. Once you move to next component, component unmounts. So what actions to perform at the stage of mount and unmount, I will show you here. Let's add a new folder, effect demo. Okay. I will use effect demo.jsx. Okay. In this, I am creating export function effect demo. Okay. It will return some fragment. And here we have a, so this is like home. Okay. We have two buttons. One button is login. We have another button is register. Two buttons are there. Now what happens is here, we will go to here itself, we will write another component. We can write in a separate file and import it. I'm just clarity sake, I'm writing in one file only. Another component is login component. What it has to do, it should return a simple div. And I will keep a heading as login. You can design a login screen, container fluid. Okay. I will create another component that is register. And here I will give as what register. Okay, two components are there, login and register. Now what we do here on this, we will create a component, constant. We have a component and set component is equal to use state and it is an empty string. It is just an empty string. Now what will happen? We will write a function handle login click. On login click, set component. The component is login. We will load the login component into it. Into memory, we will load login component. Complete login component is loaded. That means this component we are loading into memory. Okay. On handle, so register click function. So function handle register click. I will set component. Set component is what? Register. We are loading the register component here. Now where to display the component? The component I will put a horizontal line, HR for horizontal line. And I will put here the component. Is it login or register? Whatever component is there, we will display that. And on click. So on click, which component should mount? So handle login click. And on click. So on click, it has to, on click, it has to handle register. Handle register click should happen. And here we are using, so effect demo. Effect demo is there. Now we will run this. This is the effect demo. You click on home, then home component will come. You click on register, register component will come. That means we can bring those components and display them. And remember here, so I'm just rendering just a heading. You can render entire login screen and all. Suppose data list, data term, username. You have a text box, input type is text. You can design, just roughly I'm showing that. And when I click on login, it will get me that login. When I click on register, it will get me the register. So we are changing the components, one component to another. Okay, let's track down the behavior, actually what is happening in the background. So let's go here. So function, this is login component. We will use effect. Use effect is a hook which defines activities to perform at the time of mounting. That means what we will do, I will put a message here, console.log. I will put a message console.log. What is the message is login component requested, mounted. I will just give login component mounted. That means whenever it executes, it is mounted. How to write unmount? To write unmount, we have to return. So return a functionality here. Do you know what is written? So you know what is written, na? You know what is written. What is written? Return will terminate. It is a jump statement, right? It will terminate. It will terminate the functionality. And we are using console.log. It will say login component unmounted. Login component unmounted. That means this will fire up, not every time. This will fire up when you move from one component to another. You finish this component, you go to another component, this will fire up. Okay, let's do the same for register also. Let's do the same for register also. Register also having an use effect, and it is having what? Register component mounted and register component unmounted. And you need to do one more work now here. What is the work is in index, remove the strict mode. Why to remove the strict mode? Because strict mode is for development and production. That means actually we don't keep this strict mode when directly we are publishing the project. This is only in development. When you keep strict mode, the code will be compiled 2 times. First it will build, and after that it will go for production. 2 times it will compile. Then every activity you will see in the background 2 times perform. That is the reason you have to remove the strict mode. For example, I will show you here. You will be confused with the process actually. You see now, inspect, and let's go to the console. In the console, observe carefully. In the console, I click on login. When I click on login, what should happen? Login component should mount. And you see that login component mounted, unmounted, mounted. That means it is calling the login component 2 times. One time for development, after that unmounting, another time for production. That is the reason in development it mounted. After development is completed, it unmounted. After unmounted, again it is mounted for production. Production means for going live. I don't want like this. Then we will do one thing. So I just want to track down the activity. I don't want development and production 2 times. Then remove this strict mode. Remove only the strict mode. Rest of your content will be same. React strict mode you remove. Having strict mode is important for development. But you have to remove the strict mode when you want to test for the production only, right? So now see here. I will click on this login and see what happens. Login component mounted. That's good. Now when I click register, what will happen? When I click register, first what will happen? First login will unmount. First login will unmount, then register will mount. Directly register will not mount. You click on register, register will not mount. First what will happen? Login will unmount. It will remove that login and then it will load the register, and you click on register, you can see that happening. That means what is happening? Login component unmounted and register component mounted. I click on login again now. Then what will happen? Register component will unmount and login component will mount, and you can see that happens. That is the life cycle, general basic flow of a component actually. What use effect is going to do? It is going to control the mount and unmount. Mount and unmount. It is going to handle the mount and unmount. So usually how unmount is written? Unmount is defined by using a return statement. So what is the purpose of return statement? You know that it discards the memory allocated for a function. What is the purpose of return? So it will discard the memory allocated for the function, destroys the memory for that. So this is basic how you can understand use effect, right? That means now tell me what kind of activities we write, what kind of functionalities we write here. Currently, I'm writing some messages, but in reality, what kind of messages what kind of functionalities we write in that unmount phase? If you are connecting with any API databases or allocating some memory, with destroying the memory, discarding the memory, and disconnecting the database connections, all such activities we write in which ways? Unmount. Unmount is meant for cleaning up. That means at the time of cleaning up, whatever you want to perform, that you have to define here. That means usually what we do, disconnecting the connections, destroying the memory allocated for certain resources, all such cleaning up the memories, all such, we generally call this as garbage collection in computer programming. All such garbage collecting activities we perform in the concept of what? Return. In that unmount phase, we will define. So how the unmount is configured. So use effect defines mount, defines mount actions by default. You can configure unmount by using a return. By using a return function. Another point, use effect mounts the component only once. It requires a dependency to mount again. It requires a dependency to mount again. That examples we will see. Already in a custom hook example I showed you, dependency. So syntactically use effect. And here we have to define actions on mount. Here we have to define actions on unmount. Unmount. And we need to define dependencies. So a simple note is remove react.strict from index.js to test only development. Actually, it is production. So these are all different types of hooks available. Some more hooks are there, very rarely used in different location. We will see them, how to use. I already told you, third party hooks are so many, depending on which third party you are using. But here also some hooks are there, not regular, in different occasions. Later we will see. But these are very common. And these are very common majority for all interviews, right? Whatever hooks you have learned here. So this is the concept of hooks. Now, remember this hooks concept is not there in a component which is designed using class, which is designed using class. This all, that means people who know React 5 years back, they don't know all this. They don't have all this. That means 4 5 years back who learned React, who worked on React, they don't know anything of this because we don't have these hooks at all. Hooks are from 16 and higher versions, 17, 18. Earlier, they have to depend on then how they managed state, then how they managed mount and unmount, how they managed various other kind of activities. They have to depend on different technique, which is not recommended anymore now. What is the previous technique without these hooks, how they used to manage? That means now we need to understand the legacy type. What is that legacy type is? React class components. Now we put them as a legacy type. In any technology, now currently we have two things, legacy and modern. Modern is what you have learned up to now. Legacy is the old things that people are still using. Still companies may be using because companies will not update their project immediately to the latest version. Once they are developing an application and they give that application to client, they are committed to that certain version only. After several years or later, whenever client wants to update to the latest, then we need to migrate from old to the new. So several React projects are still using class components, which is not any more recommended by React community itself. Officially, React community itself will not recommend class components. They recommend only function. But we have to know because in almost several projects we have to work because several companies projects are still on old versions of React. Then you should know about this. They are migrating now to the latest version, but you need to know this. So class components, why we stop using them? So what is the problem with that? So what is the concept about class? That means to understand class components, you need to understand about JavaScript classes. You know the concept of classes in JavaScript. So first you need to understand JavaScript class. When you know JavaScript class, the same you have to use here. Already in JavaScript object-oriented programming you learned. I will give a fast overview. This is already JavaScript concept you learned. I will just give a overview highlights so that you can just refresh the concept that you learned. So what is a class in JavaScript? Without knowing that, we cannot create a class component. We have to be perfect in JavaScript classes. What is a class? So technically, class is a program template. Class is a program template. Technically, class is a program template. In any computer programming language, class is a program template. So what is a program template? So a program template comprises of data and logic, which you can customize and implement according to the requirements. That is the concept actually. A program template comprises of data and logic, so which you can customize and implement according to the requirements. So generally, ordinary programming learning people have different definition about class. If you ask a Java, C++, .NET people what is a class, they will tell you class is a blueprint or class is something else, right? But that is a general point. What is problem with us is we hear and we learn so many general words that make us easily understand. But in interviewer is not satisfied. That means you learn Java .NET from an expert Java .NET trainer. He is very expert. What he do is, for your understanding sake, he will use some general words to explain you about a concept, general words. And sometimes the technical words, so you miss them because the technical words they don't use regularly. In one definition, they will explain, and regularly they use general word. Then what you do when you go to interviews, you will tell this general word to interviewer about that topic, and interviewer is not satisfied. He says, no, it is not like that. It is something else. Every time we face this problem from the freshers. That means in a definition, we tell a technical word, but in usage, we use a general word. And in your brains, the general word goes in and you forget the technical word. Interviewer wants the technical word, not the general word. That means for Java, .NET, C++, all these people, if you ask what is class, they will say blueprint. What is blueprint? Why you call it as a blueprint? That is not technical. It's a general thing, right? Then what is technical about a class? It has different behavior. Class is technically, in any technology in the world, it is a programming template. In any technology in the world, class is a program template. What is meant by template? Template means it already contains some data and logic. We can use as it is, or we can customize according to our requirement. We can reuse. As it is, you can use, or you can use with some modifications. You can change and use them. Actually, so remember one point here. So I will give a concept here. Suppose we have some database. We have some database. And we have some business. So we have some business requirements. Now our developer, so we are developing. Our developer is writing some code. So that means our developer is designing a class. We are creating a class. Remember, means we are writing some logic. This logic is towards the business requirements. The logic is towards the business requirements according to the business actions. It is not related to any database requirements. It is related to business. The logic a developer writes is not related to any database. It is related to just business. That means what happens is I have a button. When I click a button, I should open a pop-up. In a pop-up, an advertisement should come. And that advertisement is not anywhere in database. It is just designed in a page with a photo or something. It will just open that. That means, is this logic need any database interaction? This logic doesn't need any database interactions. Is it necessary to interact with the data, get the data and use the data? Nothing. Then this is called, these classes are called entities. Class is known as an entity if it is mapping to the business requirement. Class is known as an entity if it is mapping to business requirement. If a class is mapping to data requirements, it is mapping to data requirements, then it is called as a model. It is called as a model. In software programming, anywhere the word model is used, computer programming, model means it represents data. So you have an architecture of MVC, model view controller, MVP, model view presenter, MVVM, model view model. The model represents data. So that means every software programming, if a logic that developer writes representing data, interacting with the data, managing data interactions, then we call it as a model. That means, now tell me, what is a class? Is it a model or an entity? It have both behaviors. So it is not a model every time. It is not an entity every time. If a logic that developer writes is mapping to business requirements, then we call it as entity. Data requirements, then it is called model. Then what it is every time? Every time it is a template. Every time it is a program template. And why people use the word blueprint? Because with one class, they can create multiple copies of objects and use in different places. This behavior is like a blueprint behavior. Blueprint behavior means you have a certificate, you take 100 Xerox copies of that certificate. Now, what is your certificate? It is a blueprint for those 100 copies. All the 100 copies are created by using one blueprint. Class works like a blueprint. You should not say class as a blueprint. You should not say class like a blueprint. You should say class is a template. It is a entity or it is a model. So that means class have different behaviors. So if a class is mapping to the business requirements, then it is referred as referred so referred as, then it is referred as entity. So if a class is mapping to the data requirements, then it is referred as model. It is referred as model. It have a behavior of blueprint, as it can create multiple copies, create multiple instances to reuse the logic. It have behavior of blueprint as it can create multiple instances to reuse the logic. So here you need to be perfect about the technical terms, because generally what happens here is, suppose we have OOP. So object oriented programming. So we have code separation, code extensibility, so code reusability, so and code security. So all these are the points. Now, if anybody asked you, what is OOP main feature? What is the feature of OOP? All are OOP features only. Now, that is what interviewer mindset is. That means in MNCs, these kind of questions are common. They will give you a question with 4 answers, all 4 correct, but you have to choose only one. Code reusability is the primary aim of object-oriented programming. That means the answer is code reusability. Code extensibility is a feature. Code security is a feature. Code separation is a feature, but the primary aim is reusability. That is what interviews are about. That means they are not satisfied with your general words, your general ideas, your general storytelling. They want only technical words. They want only technical words. You need to know those technical words. That means you try to explain in a story, I like this, like that. They're not satisfied. You use one technical word, that's enough. Right? So this is very important. That's the reason we should know the technical terms. Right? So JavaScript class. So actually class is a template. Now, how to define the class and how to configure the class. Already you learned configuring class. In JavaScript, in how many ways we can configure the class? We have a declaration and another one, expression. Same like function. Huh? What is class declaration? Class and the class name. What is class expression? Constant name is equal to class. This is class expression. This is the class declaration and declaration. And this is class expression. In JavaScript, how you write the classes in 2 ways. Same like you know how you write a function. Function declaration, function expression. Classes can be defined in 2 ways. The class declaration and class expression. What is difference? You already know. Function also I explained that. Function declaration and expressions. And now another point. What are the class members? In JavaScript you learned. What are the class members? What you can have in a class? A class can have a property. A class can have a accessor. A class can have a constructor. And a class can have a method. These are the members of class. Can we have a function as class member? You cannot have. Can we have a variable as class member? No. So can we have a variable in class? Yes. Can we have a function in class? Yes. But they cannot be class members. Class members means a class can have only 4 members. A property, a accessor, constructor, and method. In JavaScript classes, you learn this. What is property, what is accessor, constructor, and method. If you know this, then only you can create a class component in React. We have to learn this. I will give an overview about these all JavaScript topics actually. You will learn in JavaScript, but I'm just giving fast overview about them. What is property, accessor, constructor, method, inheritance, polymorphism. These 4 things, if you learn, then you can start using classes in React. That we'll see tomorrow. Right, in tomorrow's session, we will discuss about classes, class properties, methods, constructor, how to handle them. Then we can use in React. Okay, tomorrow we'll continue.